Pipe Network presents.
Just reading journals, it's almost like you can fast forward time. Like if you can go back, like say you wrote in some journal 6 months ago and you read it, it catches you up to the time. It's like a document, it's like a record, everything you see with your eyes. So document, even if it's 3 pages a day, like how your day went, and then like all the stuff with the moon cycle and all the stuff, like your emotions change over time, and then like you can correct some stuff, like even if you put in a book together.
If you want to learn something new or useless about the world around you, why don't you try listening to the Banyu podcast Reflushed on Spotify, Anchor, or any podcast app that you use?
On behalf of my guest here in the Rajiv Show, we would like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Reflection, and we have an interesting guest, a guest that I had on my previous season, which is the Let's Talk series, and I'm glad to have him on board again, and we're gonna have an interesting conversation. My guest, as always, my favorite guest, as always, Paul Miller. Hey pal, how you doing?
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be on the show today. Talk about whatever you want to talk about, and whether that's music or podcasting or anything in particular.
Yeah, of course. Usually, I ask the question, "Who are you?" If you and I were classmates in high school, but I'm sure you already know that question, so I'm not gonna ask you that question. So I gotta ask, what have you been up to lately?
I've been editing. My new hobby is editing videos. Like I try to put things together, and it's amazing because like if you shoot for like 40 minutes, you edit it down in 3 minutes. You learn stuff in the editing process.
Nice. So editing, huh? I heard, I don't know if I heard this episode of you with Wade Simmons or someone that you aspire to be a vlogger, get into the art, creative art side. That's interesting. How did that come about?
I like putting things in video because I started like music, and then like I like talking. I would love to get better with video. Like I've interviewed maybe 3 people that was into vlogging or YouTubers and videography.
Interesting. So what a way to open up a conversation. It feels like yesterday we had a pre-recording, and now you're much more energetic than the last conversation that we had. I think
I'm more aware.
That's really interesting. You're more responsive than you used to. You used to think a lot in the earlier episodes. It's kind of funny. So we want to talk about reflection is the topic, and that's the title, reflection, looking back. My question that I ask in terms of reflection, what is that most interesting moment in your life that changed the direction of your life?
Me getting in trouble, and like every time it's like something I learned from my mistakes, and like that's the seriousness of getting in trouble. Like it makes you want to do right and like focus and have a harder grind to not do the same mistakes.
Interesting. Right off the bat, philosophical stuff. I want to talk about philosophy, a little bit of philosophy here. Is there any, I want to dig deep into your psyche and your philosophy. Is there a particular philosophy, a particular mantra or motto that you live by on a daily basis?
Patience, and like I encourage everyone to have a self-expression, whether that's basketball, photography. Express yourself and be good at it, and speak your life through your art.
That's nice. Just very artistic. Speak your life through art. That's interesting, right? I'm gonna quote you on that. I hope you don't mind. Speak your life
Okay.
through art. I
Yeah, through
set
your
out
art.
to I set out quotations right after the episode ending and the episode
Yeah.
after. So I'm gonna quote you on this one. Speak your life through art. As an artist, uh, I know you were a former basketball player and you're a massage therapy graduate. There's a lot of stuff
Hmm.
that I know about you because you and I keep catching up a lot.
And I'm always posting and sharing stuff.
Yeah, I gotta ask though, in your life, in terms of reflection, what was that life changing moment that you had that changed everything, every perspective in your life? Do you have that kind of life experience?
That's a hard one to think. It's just so many highlights. Like even through my like writing, I say writing. That's the main thing. It changed my life,
Mm.
and like I've been writing nonstop. Not sometimes I take breaks from it, but I got better. I got my own formula. And in 2009, I was at I was in church actually. Yeah, I was in
Mm.
church and a youth pastor he passed out journals, and he say write what's going on in your life, write your prayers. It will give you some momentum, and I wrote ever since then. I read a lot of books and I got information. It's like I connected to the stories of other people, and it it exposed me to like other people around the world, like Malaysia and other places.
Mm.
And just reading journals, it's almost like you can fast forward time. Like if you can go back, like say you wrote in some journal 6 months ago, and
Mm.
you read it, it catches you up to the time. It's like a document. It's like a record. Everything you see with your eyes. So document even if it's 3 pages a day, like how your day went, and then like all the stuff with the moon cycle and all the stuff. Like your emotions change over time, and then like you can correct some stuff. Like even if you're putting a book together and like, okay, this is not true. Like I read this. Okay, let me correct this part or edit. You can also enhance. Like it's a writing process. You can fast forward time. Like I think there's a movie on this. I don't know with Ashton Kutcher. Is it the butterfly effect?
Which one?
Butterfly, butterfly effect. I think Ashton Kutcher was in that movie.
Interesting, interesting.
He would read journals and he would go back in time.
Butterfly effect. I gotta check it out. I'm a movie buff.
Yeah. But I think it got bad for him because he kept reading the journals and he would go back in time to that day.
Yeah.
But like he was doing it too much, and like it was interesting.
So yeah, journaling is a form of reflection. That's pretty interesting. I started my own journal. Personal story that I haven't shared is I started my own journal before, but I kind of lost momentum because uh of course so many stresses in life, uh
Yeah.
so I couldn't catch up with my own thoughts. And mostly nowadays my thoughts are with my podcast or my blog. That's what makes my
Yeah.
life interesting now. So yeah.
I got I got 3 tips with journaling. There's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. So like when we journal, like when I started off, like I was just throwing emotions in, and like it could be stressful, like just writing all the time. But even if you do 3 pages or like however, like you could start out your thoughts,
Mm.
like just writing, like it's like brainstorming. But like what I do, like I don't write down emotions. I use it as a documentation. Like I write facts down, and like it's real stuff. It's from the heart. Um, and speaking is good too. Like it's all communication, whether we text, but some things can be misinterpreted even when we text.
Yeah.
Um, speaking, I feel it's a better form of communication. You get better when you're talking to your friends. Like you build that vocal muscle. Back to like with writing, like I document,
Yeah.
and like what I do now, I don't write as much, but I keep a to-do list. I do a schedule, so I'm keeping up with myself each day, my routine. So
Mm.
I do those things, and I structure. It's more structured than like how I used to. Like, but I've also like gathered books. Like I throw away journals. I don't keep them. Like it's just too much. Like sometimes I burn them and stuff. Like, so you get rid of that, and but like you keep the good stuff. You throw away the bad. It's like recycling, like taking out the trash. That's quality control. Like I learned that how to rap, and it taught me like keep what you need, throw away what you don't need. That's quality control.
Interesting. When you said
Yeah, because
burning, when you said burning your journals, it's kind of, there's this movie. I don't know if you've seen the movie. I think it was one of the James Bond movie, No Time to Die or something. There's a culture in Greece, I think, where they write their own thoughts in a piece of paper and they burn it out in the street so that I don't know, exactly if it was No Time to Die, but I remember the movie, the moment in Greece where they're releasing a piece of paper and they're burning it in the air. It's really interesting.
yeah, it's like almost like a ritual, not a ritual, but like you letting that go. Like you don't want to hold on to so much junk or clutter. Like
Yeah,
you keep the good stuff. Like you
yeah,
keep the quality stuff. Like because we can write so much stuff, but like it's gonna take up too much space. We don't got all that space. Like it can be like a harder like with nothing but journals. But like you keep what you need. Like you can also document like on Google Docs, write it down, and then save the good stuff. You don't want to have a whole lot of stuff. So it's just back to quality control and organizing.
pretty interesting.
I don't think I ever shared this. I don't think I ever shared this information.
Yeah, we're
It's a good tip.
eh, we're talking about journaling, and it's funny that I, I can relate a little bit to it. I enjoyed writing down my thoughts, but suddenly something about it just made me go nah, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I did
Yeah.
enjoy it for a brief period, but then I didn't really continue it because it's not a personal thing. It's not a personal attack to journalism or
hmm
journalistic thing. I mean, it's just uh, I find it as an interesting medium, but
Yeah.
sometimes uh, it sometimes it gets too complicating when you're forcing yourself to write, which is the toughest part of it.
Yeah.
That's what I hate.
Express yourself. Express
That's the
yourself.
hardest part. That's the hardest part.
It helped me with music, and if I had to put podcasting, music, and journaling together,
Hmm.
talking podcasting would be the best to me because it's like you speaking from intent and like intelligence and like it's coming from the heart, like
Hmm.
opposed to like music, like we just rhyming and just like is almost like it's not a disease, but it's cool to like if you can reach people like that, it's like tapping into God or like something higher. And when you can write, that's the thing about music. It's like the music theory and the music composition, you capture in the moment. So the music really goes deep.
Yeah. You mentioned music theory.
You cap
It took me back to college. Music theory. Music theory is not really my favorite subject, uh, but the one thing that interests me the most is in music theory is understanding how to communicate through notes. I want to talk about this a little bit. I want to highlight this a little bit because journaling, we're connecting journaling to music theory. I don't know how you
yeah.
connected it, but yeah, you connected it pretty wisely, and I'm pretty impressed. Music theory, on the other hand, is um, the art of expressing oneself in terms of musical uh, expression, musical knowledge, and it's just interesting that you use a particular note or use particular chord that may not mean something in a single context. Let's just say a C chord as CEG. We put that in a music sheet on a one bar. It won't make sense if you're just playing that on a one bar. But if you add chords and add different kind of substitution like inversions and all this stuff, it makes it interesting. You add the seventh, you get the jazz, you get, if you go to the sevens, the theory gets a little bit more wonky because you have more in the jazz spectrum of music. It gets more complicated when you have the nines and the 11s. I'm sure you've heard about all this stuff, the 11 chord, the 9 chord, and all that crazy stuff. That's jazz.
Yeah, I
And
haven't got too deep. I
yeah,
haven't got too deep into any but I know like it's like a composition. We all creators, we creating, whether it's music,
yeah,
whatever we creating, and we capture the times. And like it amazes me like I feel that the universe is like a jump drive with information. We capturing everything, like, and when we make that music, it's like if you study history of anything, like everything comes with like history. Like
Mm,
whether you being a police, you studying, like if you being a policeman, like you studying the history before you start on day one. Like
mm,
everything comes with a history.
yeah, but yeah, I agree. Agree. It's all about the history. What makes learning music theory is I'm sorry I had to go back to music theory. It's just that
Oh
something
yeah.
about it. There's something about it that makes sing musical expression is much more different than it is now, in terms of beats, in terms of harmony, in terms of melody. It's just if you and I sit down and talk about music theory, boy, we'd have like a 7-part series, 7-part series conversation about music theory. But to give it,
Yeah, I know.
to
I
break
know a
it
little bit
down,
about hip hop.
yeah, just to give a
I,
little bit of
I read
breakdown,
so many books.
yeah, just to give a little bit of breakdown on what music theory does is it gives you an idea of how you want to take your music in what direction and how thing, and if you add the melody to it, it just changes it has its own character. It's just interesting. That's one thing about learning music theory. It's just interesting. And and coming back to the idea of journaling and writing down lyricist, that's also another. I want to connect that to sing, because you said journaling, and then you write your own words and you do your own rap. One thing interesting about that is melodies are born from simple thoughts, and that's how you build. And I'm sure when you create your own rap, there's a melody that comes along with it. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, the music speaks to me whether I'm listening to an instrumental.
Hmm.
Some beats are whack, some are good. Whereas I can go into dimensions and creativity, and like I'll be more mind. It'll be more mind activating for me. Like it's sound healing to me to like create something, and like some of the songs could be common whether people are singing. Like it goes into sound healing.
Yeah, but it's an interesting topic. Like I said, is it, music lyricism. One thing about me is my lyricism is not the best. That's why I kind of sort of gave up on music. Sorry to disappoint those who are listening. It's not a personal attack on musicians or being a lyricist. To me, I
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate being a musician in
it's
terms
similar
of
to
writing.
talking.
To me,
You got.
in terms of lyrics, I don't know if I've told you this before. I think I told you this in a podcast before. Is that um, I don't know if you remember this or saying um, I when I write music, it comes from a different perspective. My first song that I composed 20 days ago, it was a sad song, a breakup song, because that was my second ex, and damn, I really hated that, you know. And then when it came to the second
Yeah.
song and third song, when I started composing, I kind of lost my identity in writing, because most of the stuff that I'll write would be probably like a Taylor Swift kind, you know, talk about my ex in
Yeah.
some form or some manner. I just hated it. That's why I hate being a
Yeah.
lyricist. Yeah.
You really got to go deep. Like with lyricism, it's just a lot of practicing, adding rhymes, in rhymes. It's deals with poetry, and I would say like to be good at it, you really got to talk in your head about like the patterns, the rhyme schemes and stuff. Like if you're freestyling, listening to an instrumental, like similar to jazz, like creating stuff on the spot, but you have to
Improvise.
have those rhyme patterns.
Improvisation. Yeah. That's another topic altogether. Jazz. I like the
You-
writing in jazz chords. Um, Even my first song 20 days ago, uh, I wrote it with jazz chords, and I think, yeah, it's mostly jazz chords. And I don't know, I have a strange fascination for jazz chords. If you ask me to play the standard stuff, I reharmonize it in jazz. It's weird. That's what makes me a weird cookie sometimes.
you got to get inspired, like some people they get inspired by reading books. Some people they get their content from reading books or reading journals, or even being inspired by researching something or going to another country, and then they can tell a story through rhyme, through like I imagine me like going through all the years freestyling to beats, and then the effort I put into it. Like I was writing at 11 years old, and then other people inspire me, other influences. They're like keys to wisdom about it, and they also like they taught me so much, and all the writing. Like just imagine 100 journals, or all the journals I wrote in. Like I probably wrote in like 20 journals a year since 2009, like filled up. Like it's so much words, but like you realize you got to concise it, and back to the quality control.
Damn. I just went damn because it reminded me
It's
of
deep.
that. It reminded me of Kevin Hart and Don Cheadle. I don't know if you've seen this video where Don Cheadle said that he's 58 years old and Kevin Hart said, "Damn."
He's funny, man.
Yeah. Suddenly Don Cheadle said, "Why did you say damn?" You know, and then you know, it was just funny. This is a funny part. I don't know what, and yeah, it's but yeah, 20 books, man. You must be a scholar by now because
20
writing
journals a year, yeah.
20 journals a year. That's crazy. That's a lot crazy
Like
than expected. I couldn't even fill. I couldn't even fill one notebook. I imagine how much notebooks. 20 notebooks. That's crazy to me.
yeah, journals. It's all these thoughts. I express it in word. I'm a wordsmith. Like I wrote so much, but like I realized like I don't need to do that all the time. I like talking. I still have my routine, my
Mm.
structure. Without it, like I kind of gear from it. I still like do to-do lists sometimes every now and then, or write things down. I need to get back into that habit because it helps me with organizing my life and following suit to the to-do list and checking off and getting things done. It really helps me organize.
Yeah. Interesting. Journaling. That's one thing that I should take up. I don't know whether I can try, but somehow I
Just
don't
don't
know.
overdo it.
I don't know. I'm I don't know what to do with it. I'm interested in it, but let's see. Let's see. We get there if we get there.
Yeah. Don't let it get out of hand. just woosah and be strategic with it.
Yeah. Sometimes
Plan.
I don't have strategy when it comes to writing. Most of my writings come from my blog nowadays. It's unorganized, but yeah, even this conversation, it's gonna have its own transcript in my blog because I
Okay.
love conversations like this. That's one of my interests now. Transcribing conversations, like at least a 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes. That makes it interesting. It's just an interesting journey. And yeah, wow, we went from journaling to
Hmm.
music theory, to rap, and back to journaling. It's really interesting stuff you got out here.
I'm trying to teach people the structure of like how I came about with the creative side is creativity, and imagine me reading so many hip hop books. I read other books, social books, but some of these books 900 pages, like 500 pages, 300 pages. Like I read so many hip hop books to be into it.
Interesting. I gotta ask you. I'm gonna take this to high school now. In high
Okay.
school, uh, what is your favorite topic of all time?
World history, art.
Interesting. I knew you were gonna say world history.
Yeah, world history was my favorite.
Yeah, I want I want to connect that to saying because to me also lately I've been doing a lot of research on British monarchy after the death of Queen Elizabeth. For some reason, I was,
Yeah.
as an Indian, researching. It's kind of weird to say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big topic. It's trending right now. Like I've been looking into things too, but I didn't do like a big research.
I don't know. I just find it interesting to study British history for some reason. Um, it's just an interesting topic. I mean, coming from an
Mhm.
Indian who was conquered by the British, it's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting turn.
Yeah, I totally felt it. I just was being quiet. I didn't want to, open a can of beans about like the history, like what they
Yeah.
did to us.
Uh, I mean, America's history was much more brutal from what I heard, especially with the slavery and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I love Western. I,
Slavery,
I love Western. I don't know. For me, I'm drawn to. I'm gonna take this over into history. I've been
movies.
drawn to American history earlier on in my earlier years. I don't know. There's something about American history that I don't know changes the world. And then lately, after the death of Queen Elizabeth, um, I was drawn to her lineage, her monarch. Why is she the second? I was so curious. Why was she the second? Who was the
Hmm.
first? And who were the kings before? And I was just blown away. I mean, like I said about music theory, we'd make a 7-part episode of British history from what I've learned, and it's just interesting. I don't know. I'm so obsessed with the British history now. Look, I'm studying the genealogy, the the line succession. It's just crazy what I'm doing lately. I mean, stuff that I learned about British history and the earlier rulers just blew my mind. And stuff
Hmm.
like this is funny. Every time I watch documentaries, you should see my YouTube channel. It's full of either British history or Gordon Ramsay or or just
Your
music.
playlist,
No, no, my algorithm,
your playlist.
the algorithm that's revolving around my home screen. It's either British
Oh.
monarchy, Gordon Ramsay, don't ask me why, and music. It's those three. It's only those three. And sometimes some weird topics may arise, but sometimes I ignore. A lot of times I ignore the others. It's mostly those three. Don't ask why the Gordon Ramsay is there. So yeah,
Yeah, I love knowledge. I love knowledge. Like I recently, I've been trying to look into my own history, like with the Haitian, the stuff that happened in Haiti when the Haitian revolt, like when
yeah,
the French was trying to conquer them, but they fought for like 9 years and they won their freedom
yeah.
because they was trying to put them in slavery.
Talking about slavery, even South Africans, they slavery. I think a lot of the old British stuff, saying uh, all the British stuff, all the British colonies were just they, ju- they have an interesting stuff. Those that went independent, they have different stories. And uh, looking back, I was also watching this history on History Channel. It popped out on History Channel. The Japanese empire had a different system, and it's just interesting.
Wow, I'm gonna have to look into that. Send me the link, definitely.
I saw this on History Channel, so I don't know if there's a link with that. Uh, this was this was on the dawn of World War II, because sorry, I'm giving you a little bit of history lesson. World War II
Oh
was,
yeah,
of
I love
course,
it. I love it.
the rise of Hitler and his allegiance to his ambition to grow his empire, and he wanted to create his own stuff. So yeah, interesting stuff with Hitler and World War II, and his ambition that made many people hate him, and then the British Empire, and then when Germany joined forces with the Japanese Empire, that was another union. It was crazy, and then the Russians didn't
Wow.
really like it. it's just an interesting dynamic. The Russians, the British, the Americans. The Americans weren't even involved. I don't know if you know the story, but the Russians weren't. The Americans weren't even involved in the conversation. The Americans were not involved in the First World War in the first half of it. They were only involved when the Japanese Empire bombed Pearl Harbor, and I think you know that story. That's how the Americans came to aid with UK, and that's how I think this was the ending of colonies. But Hitler, Hitler is another story. It's just crazy. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a long story with Hitler.
yeah,
With Hitler, because I mean, he some of the stuff he invented, like with military, he was testing on humans
yeah. He hated the
with their
Jews.
eyes.
He hated the Jews. That was one of the things that his propaganda. But it was just crazy. It's just crazy to
Yeah,
think how that
he was
manages.
wild. Yeah,
And
he was
and and
evil.
and then after he died, the rise of the Cold War between America and USSR at that time with Stalin and your American president. I
I
love this
wanted to
stuff.
say something. I
Yeah,
wanted to say something about America, like,
yeah,
and it all roots. All the stuff is connected, like it's interconnected with our brains and our history too. Like all the stuff we talked about today.
yeah.
But what I see America like from like when it started, like you know, taking land from the Indians, the slavery part, all this stuff, and to like the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King,
Yeah.
people fighting against the racism that was going on too. Like the only beautiful thing I've gotten, and we're coming together as people. Some still like hate and they divide us, but
Yeah.
the entertainment brings us together. Like the music, the movies,
The
and you
culture.
would say too, like about the movies, it's inspiring.
Yeah. It's just interesting. Now I just got a warning from Zoom that our time is nearly done. But just to wrap
Yeah,
up that the conversation about world history, it's a topic that is really something that's worth digging into, and it's just
yeah,
interesting. For those who are listening who are fans of history, shout out to you guys because history is just interesting, and if you
yeah,
strip away something about it, if you strip away some certain aspects that you don't like personally and just understand it in a more different perspective, you
yeah.
you would enjoy history. I'm not good with numbers, I'm not good with dates.
Uh,
So that's why if you
yeah, the
notice,
years and stuff.
yeah, that's why if you notice, I never when I said about thing that I said about the when Nazi Germany grew. I didn't even know the year. I don't even know the year. If you ask me, I don't even know the year. But I know the story
Yeah,
behind it. So yeah,
yeah.
I
We got to research
yeah
uh some interesting stuff. Like, and I don't want to take up too much time because I think I'll be a minute or less than that. But some interesting stuff like not to be what they call it, biased. We got to
yeah
expose ourselves to information and
yeah
do the research, have different sources, not just one sided or
yeah
just seeing through one lenses or prism.
yeah
And when we're exposed to other cultures and people, we learn so much more. It's
mm,
like in sociology
yeah
when you can look through the veil of what's going on. Like even if you see like a group of people, they all in cowboy hats. If you go and have a conversation with them, you will see more dimensions of where they came from. Like
yeah
it's sociology stuff. Study the structure of groups of people and whatnot. I'm not sure the definition of sociology,
yeah
but sometimes we just got to open our mind and put ourselves in other people's shoes. Some people judge. Another thing about history, when I was in world history class, I remember just hearing about philosophy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle,
yeah
and France. Like I did a project on France, and I brought up the one of the hobbies they did was lancing. That was like
yeah
the 1500s. Like they'll
nice
be on horses and then they'll hit people with those poles.
nice
It's some
nice
interesting stuff. Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. Well, that's that's history. There's so many things I could say about history. Like I said, if we talk about history
Sports.
even longer, we'd create a 7-part series, and that's gonna be that's gonna be tough for me to edit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
I
we
mean,
definitely got to know. We definitely got to know our history because, like, they'll some people like they'll fabricate it or whitewash it or just focus on that. But like we got to know. We got to be proud of our own history and who we are.
mm, yeah, I do agree. I do agree with you.
Yeah.
100%, I do agree with you, pal. So, of course, before we wrap up our conversation here, pal, uh, we we went from just a little bit recap for those who are tuning in. We went from journaling to music theory, and back to journaling, and then we went to history. So this was a plate full of lots of side dishes, and it's really interesting. So, just to wrap up the conversation, of course, my listeners will want to connect with you via social media. Pal, how will they connect with you via social media?
You can check out my website www.the created by Rajiv. Like working together. Like thank you for that. Like it really
Cheers.
helped me. And also YouTube. YouTube has all my links. I'm gonna have to create a what they call it link. Like I forget what it's called. Yeah, to where all the links are together. But
Yeah,
YouTube, Nihan Arav Krishna.
yeah. So yeah, this
I
was a blast.
I recently
Yeah, this is a blast. I really I enjoyed this. I hope
yeah,
we'd connect some
it
more,
was a good
and
creativity.
yeah, we'd create some more episodes. I'm looking forward for the next episode. So yeah, with that in
You
mind,
helped me to dig deep.
I know. That's the one thing I enjoy about conversations. Sometimes it makes you go, I didn't think of that. So yeah, before we wrap up, I want to say thank you, pal, for being on my show again, and it's a huge honor having you on my
Thank you.
show. And yeah, feel free to come back. Just like this, feel free to
Oh,
come back.
oh yeah. This
And then
this
I
is a
don't know.
great show.
I'm still thinking about what season 6 is gonna be, but let's see how what we're gonna do about that. Let's hope that
I wasn't expecting this to be this good. This is
yeah.
dangerously good.
Yeah, but we opened a lot of boxes that we could not open fully enough because Zoom is limiting us. So yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I want to say thank you, pal, for being my guest, and for those who are tuning, cheers, folks, and I will see you in the next episode.